Hi, welcome to the 5th editions of Wikipedia Weekly. And in this episode, we will write a Wikipedia article and enrich Wikidata with moths. And the reason is it's moth week. So let's dive in. And I'm again with our audience, on my, I know it's, I now need to
There I am.
with
Yes.
Jan.
Yes.
And we have, I need to point out. We have Siobhan and Paul. Actually, your names are in the screen, so it's not necessary. Okay, shall we just dive in?
Yes,
Sure.
Yeah.
So, there is a very nice Wikipedia list by user Manon.
Can you start zooming in a little bit?
We got that comment last week. That is correct. I actually promised to look for a default font and never did. So we will get complaints, I guess, again. So as a reminder, I should. So this is a list added by one of the Wikipedia users that lists, I think it's in the Southeast Asia, moths that exist in Southeast Asia. And I think this is a very good starting point to identify a moth that we can enrich on Wikipedia. And the blue ones are actually already Wikipedia articles. Although this is a stub, we might even try to add some photos for fun if we have time to these. But the red ones are the ones that still need a Wikipedia article. But as we have done in the past, we are trying to reuse content from crowdsourcing sites like iNaturalist. So now, how do you know if a picture exists? So we can go, for example, to, let's take the Diomea lignicolora, and then if we go to iNaturalist, and oh, I need to log in.
I'm surprised you're out of it.
Yeah, me too. So, and we can actually see that there are observations of this moth. However, it's actually, there is a picture, but whether that picture can be used is not always clear. So,
I normally go to view all and then start by just making sure they're research grade and then just using the drop down. So where it says total observations and there's 8 and there's a green button that says view all on the right hand side at the top.
Right hand side, filter by place.
Under top identifier and total observations, number 8, I just press view all.
View all, yes.
Yep. And then add to the filters. So see the filters at the top?
Yeah.
Next to the go, yeah. Then I actually click the research grade button on the top left. Yeah. And then photo licensing, I'll do the drop down because sometimes I'm checking, when I do this, I'm checking for a license that is as open as possible, but also I'm looking at photo quality. So I do actually just look at each one and obviously prioritize CC0. And if there's no good quality photos at CC0, I then go CC BY and sort of step down the ladder of openness, as it were, just seeing what's available.
There is one that is CC BY.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, okay.
And it's a great photo too. It's a beautiful photo.
It's a beautiful photo. So let's do this then.
Okay.
And so we can go to. So what I usually do, and I want to. This is. I made a little Jupyter notebook that that streamline mine write process, and it ends up so. It's still. I should really work on making this product ready. But here we see actually the same picture. So what it does, it checks for all the species in the Diomedes genus, and it finds one species that's not yet in Wikipedia. So I can start with, why is that? Oh, there is no GBIF taxon in Wikidata for this species.
That's not a surprise if it's the whole genus I'm working on for Moth Week. GBIF has the genus, but very few of the species. So I actually see that as a reason to do Wikidata and a Wikipedia article about moths. Species, the moths I do are endemic to New Zealand, so I find international aggregators do lag a bit behind when it comes to taxonomy. So the species I'm working on for Moth Week are New Zealand endemic moths, and the paper was produced in 2019, which is yet to filter through to some of the aggregators, the data to some of the aggregators. So I see the work I'm doing in Wikidata and Wikipedia can assist in helping international taxonomists find the paper, and if they're interested in New Zealand endemic moths, which tends to be, just New Zealand really. So don't let the fact that GBIF doesn't have it put you off.
But I'm a bit surprised because it says the Diomea lignicolora, but when I look to the other Wikipedia, I see that it's known under a different name, the Corsa lignicolora.
Okay. So what we're dealing with here is a possible synonym situation, and only possible. We'd have to do some research.
So I'm actually proposing to, because we addressed the synonymy last time.
Yeah.
Maybe select yes, it's a species of insect, and I propose to take another one because we already addressed this in the previous edition.
Sure.
Okay, so let's then go to the Homodus. This one. It's a nice orange moth. So in this Jupyter notebook, I then render the results from GBIF. I fetch the image as it is in Commons. No, in iNaturalist, but with a Commons compatible license. And I list the sources from the BHL.
Well, I like that. Lots of things to look at.
Yep, and then it seems like there is a Commons category.
Yes, only one image. I thought it was the same first, but they were only similar.
Well, because colors, they are very distinct.
Yes.
That's all right. Put another one in. It's got more distinct.
More details, yes.
Yeah.
So I rushed too fast. So what I did is I have a user script in Commons called iNaturalist import, and what that does is it checks iNaturalist for this species whether or not compatible licenses exist, and in this case there is one. So I can pick this moth, load it into Commons, upload the file, and it fetches all the metadata, or not all, but it fetches metadata from our naturalist when it's when the picture was taken, what the source file is, who the author is, and location, the iNaturalist ID, etc. And when I then upload the file, the image is actually uploaded under my user account, but the actual author remains, and the license is copied. It was a CC BY, so that image. So when I have that, I just copy the title, and then what it then does, it creates a template I can use to copy. I can copy to Wikipedia, and it says start the Homeidus Croatia article, and then I start, and I'm cleaning it up. So that's what my notebook does, and there, as you can see, there are still some beauty errors that I need to fix, but it renders, it combines it collects data from different sources, being BHL, being iNaturalist, being GBIF, and it creates a stub that allows growing the article. So now what I can do is I do show preview, and we have a stub as it will show. I typically don't like this yet as a stub. I think it's quite minimal. So what I typically do then is I go to the GBIF page. Where is it? GBIF. And I select, and I see that it's the original author is Guinea in 1852. And I try to identify the full name of this author.
I found it yesterday. He should be in there.
If you already checked the Wikidata entry, it's already in there.
Okay. Thank you. But then who would I? Oh no, I needed Wikidata. Who would you then? So if I have the information from Wikidata, yes, Achille Gunet. So what I then do is I write here. Let me see the yes. Was originally described by 1852. And what I then did, but we took it from, is then make a reference to GBIF, since I used this page to get to the full name. So that being and then, so now what I do is this, and then I have written this, and okay, and then one more step before and it is something where I'm still a bit on the fence. And so what I do is I render all the items, all the references that are in BHL, and put it under a section sources. But especially if the list is this long, I tend to delete it. So I don't know what your opinion is here.
Well, I mean, if I was working on this as a a draft, I'd probably keep it there just for links to, in my sandbox. I'd probably keep it so that it's easy to find the content, but I wouldn't publish it as part of a stub. I think it's a lot of what you're using as sources won't be. They'll just be one mention of the moth. There'll be nothing other than the fact of the species name. So I'd probably, if it was me and I'm publishing the stub, I wouldn't have that in there. What I would do, if when you went to GBIF and you found the name and information in GBIF, if you look underneath, there's actually a link to the original publication. Not that moth, the other one, that's the brown moth we started with. We need that's it. Can you see it says published in?
Published in Histoire. I didn't know that.
So what I would do is I would copy that and I would look for or double check your source list to see if that is in your source list. And that one I would keep. And I would actually use that. I would go and look at it. I mean, it's in French, but I use Google Translate. I copy and then put it into Google Translate because I can't speak French. And work out what it says. And then use that as the reference for the fact that it's a species in a particular, well, it depends. The name hasn't changed in this particular case, so I would use it as a reference to say that it's in that particular genus, so that there's a link to the first description of the species, the first scientific description of the species.
Except that it doesn't show in the list of sources on BHL.
Oh, well, it should be there. There it is. There it is. This one. Yeah. I'd be more just, if it's not there, I'd do feedback to the HL activity and put it there. Because there's a feedback button, and then the HL will go away, scan it, that's if it's in the public domain, and put it on their side.
So they have volume 6.
Great, we're going to be having, we can find it, there'll be a search inside. So go to volume 6.
Siobhan, if I just publish I remove the sources, and maybe I can hand you the screen, and would that help?
Sure. Yeah. I'm going to get that. Well, I'll tell you what, remove the sources and then publish it, and then I'll go in and get it and share my screen and find out what we're looking for.
Okay, let me quickly remove the sources. So let's move this away. So what I will do, I will save it. Quickly check if it still renders. Yes. I will publish the page. So that, and then, because what I want to do for GBIF is I want to use, in 1852, I want to use this site.
Yeah.
And then use this one. And where is it's there. It's there. Add the link, and it will create a insert. So, and then I will share the link in the chat.
Cool.
So what I did in the meantime is I added to the Wikidata the link to the English Wikipedia article.
Lovely. Great. Fantastic.
And immediately we have the other languages.
Yeah.
So here. Brilliant. Okay. Recently I got quite some banners because apparently this is an orphan page. And this is something I still have to figure out in for myself, because I've initially thought that being listed on some page is enough, but apparently not. Anyone here know how you fix this orphan page?
I assume that if it's got a list, say, for example, I use the list of New Zealand Lepidoptera, and also there'll be a list in the species page, so the genus page for the species. So that's 2 links, which I regard as not being orphaned. That's my personal opinion. That's my opinion. If there's a link in a page relating to the species, but it could be argued against, because I've had one article that's had an orphan tag on it, even though it's been on those 2 pages and it's been listed in those 2 pages. But I disagree with that. I don't think it's orphaned if it's been linked to 2 other articles.
Okay, and so then the next step. We still need to add a reference, which is this one. So we need.
Roger thinks we should do a taxon box as well.
Oh, yes.
I was trying to add this as a reference using Cytoid, but I think it picked up some weird metadata because it says it's from 1836.
Yeah, well, that's because it's 6 volumes. So what will happen is that the metadata relating to it in VHL will start from the start. It may be a range of 1830 something, and he's been writing it for 20 years in 6 volumes. It's actually, that's the first time he describes the species in the 6th volume, so it's 1850, 1865, or whatever year we're dealing with. So what you've got to do for Cytoid, it's almost like sometimes if you want to do it properly, you have to do an item, a Wikidata item for each volume, and do the metadata for each volume, or I go in and edit Cytoid and add the volume in and change the page.
Yeah. I think I'll do that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just something to know when you're dealing with VHL. They're obviously doing metadata for the whole work. And yet, when you're doing taxonomy and looking at where the actual original publication was actually published, the 2 dates can actually be out of sync and not be the same.
So here's a trick I just learned. So I moved to the volume page where you can actually see the scan and put that into Cytoid, and then it got the right one.
Yeah. See the URL for current page.
Yeah.
That is a stable URL that is like the bread and butter of this type of work. Because there's also a property for VHL page ID, and that last set of numbers on the VHL stable URL is that ID. And so when you're doing the reference in Wikidata, I not only put the work and the string text of the actual pages that deal with the particular moth, I'll also put in the reference an actual link to that VHL page ID. So it's just a matter of someone clicking and it takes you directly to the page that they're interested in, rather than having to do what we've just done and toss it through 144 pages to try and find the one part of that document that has the original description. Oh no, you're copying that and you're going to change it. The category taxon named by.
Okay, if you don't want me to do anything,
No, stop. I want you to do that. I really want that category. I just want it named by whatever his name is.
I was just scrolled the text from another page.
I just panicked. Sorry.
Because if you make a little so, and maybe it doesn't exist, so hopefully it already exists. That's nice.
Oh yes, he's prolific. He's done New Zealand moth. He's amazing.
So you added it to Wikidata, Jan?
No, I haven't.
But you said you did it with Cytoid.
Yeah, I'm editing the Swedish article because there's, as you see in the bottom left there's already an article on Swedish, so I'm polishing that one.
Nice one.
Okay, let's check.
Can we copy references from one Wikipedia to another? Being, monolingual, I'm not able to speak any other languages. I don't know. So can we do that? Can you just copy the reference from one wiki to another?
Not easily. Sometimes it works, but mostly it works from English to other ones because other ones adapted at least a redirect of the English template.
That's the thing.
But in this case, I didn't do anything with the actual reference more than putting it into Cytoid, so you could just take the same URL and put it into the Cytoid on English Wikipedia, and it should work.
Okay, I've never done so. So how do I do that?
So press edit and cite and drop the URL.
That's it.
Yes, and then you press generate, and hopefully it comes up with something that there's enough metadata that is structured on the site.
The URL will be for the current page, not that one. Go back.
Oh, no, forward. One more.
Sorry, forward. One more. Sorry.
There you go.
URL for current page.
Yeah, but this is page 2.
Yeah, that one.
This one.
Oh, well, whatever page. What page were we on for the original reference?
So that was what I was looking at. So when this is what I found, and then I went to the actual page, and then I went back to the GWIF link and saw it's volume 6, page 1 to 444.
Yeah, if you see that, can you see it says search inside? What I do in a situation like that, I do the search inside, and I'll put the last, not the whole species name, just the last wee bit. Yep.
I did, and it doesn't show anything.
Take a look in the chat. I posted the link.
There's the short link.
One before the last one. Page 290. Yeah. I found it by typing the whole name, so.
Okay. Sometimes you've got to be careful for this sort of thing because, of course, the AHL is relying on their OCR. And OCR for older documents can be an issue. Sometimes you do actually have to trawl through the whole document to try and find what you're after because the OCR just isn't pulling up what you need. So it's definitely in there. So go to page 290.
Yes.
We're at 280.
280.
290. No, we need 290, I think. Oh, no, that's not there. Why? Because, I don't know why.
That's it, yeah.
No, that's fine. And then so you copy that. Yeah.
Copy that. And I then, where was I? So then I add that. Generate. Okay, insert. Publish change.
Yeah. That'll need you to think.
Okay, so we have created a stub. You can see here. And if we go back to the original page we started with is this it shouldn't be, where is it? I will just copy paste it again. Oops, no, stop. Went too quick. Homer, and we can see it's no longer red.
Yeah.
So we have a stop. We are half an hour in. Do we continue with the... What's next? Will we update, or will we create another stop, or do we dive into Wikidata?
You can just navigate up to Homodis, to the genus.
Yes.
And we'll see that there's actually already a link there that turned blue now.
Yay. That's great. So I would regard that as not being opened. I would regard that as being properly linked into Wikidata.
So for the other Homodis, we don't have any pictures to use.
In a way, see, I use editing Wikidata and Wikipedia as a way to prompt organisations and also iNaturalist folk to try and get me an image. So there have been situations where I deliberately write a Wikipedia article about a moth and then tweet it out, moaning to particular organisations who know, I know they've got either specimen or possibly even an image that just isn't reachable by me, and say, look, I've got this Wikipedia article. Oh, no image. Can someone help me? And then they'll come along and say, oh, yeah, we can get you an image. And I'll ask them either to upload it or put it in a place that's, obviously openly licensed to use it. And I also, the other option I do, if it's quite a rare species or it's only been observed once or twice and we know a particular organisation has one specimen, say a museum, I'll actually request the museum digitise the specimen so that I get an image to put in the Wikipedia article.
I have another candidate. So I checked the AP Plema, which is a red link. And these are all the AP Plemas that lack a Wikipedia article, but have compatible licenses in iNaturalist. So that was this one, the AP Plema Anomala, but we also have the AP Plema Fulfilinea, AP Plema. So no, that's not there. So if we want to stick to this list, which I'm inclined to do, we should pick this one. So
the other reason to write a Wikipedia article is to encourage people to observe the moths, because of course iNaturalist ingests the Wikipedia article in their about section and can guide people to go and find the moths to take images of it.
But I would say go with the Anomala, because there's not even an image on Commons. That this would be the first.
I just wanted to quickly correct. This is always the excitement of doing this. Is that
rabbit holes all the way.
Exactly. So, there are actually some nice pictures of that moth. Fortunately, not compatible license, but. Yes, it's minimal.
All right,
but it's already showing up.
Yeah.
So, but let's go with this. So we have that one. Oh, this one is even nice.
Isn't it lovely?
Also, not that many references in BHL. Oops, Commons is indeed not there. So let's do the pipeline.
Which one was that?
This one was the AP. You're right. I took the wrong one.
I didn't know you took the wrong one. You took the Anomala.
No. So I was. Which one did we? The Anomala.
This one.
Yes.
Yeah.
My bad. I should put a line. That's why I don't dare to release this notebook.
It's not very obvious. It's a top one.
Yeah.
So go back. Do we have this?
That's the one.
So this one. Oh, even only one comments, same story. New tab, and then I so publish pages, and now we need to go to Wikidata. Wikidata. Search species of insect. Yes. Do we have? We don't have the comments. So comments, and that is this one. Yes, publish. So do we have an iNaturalist and the GBIF ID? So the rest should. So what I'm checking is whether an iNaturalist taxon ID and the GBIF ID exist. If not, I add them. And now I can go back, say edit, and then add Wikidata info box and show preview. Yep. So we can save it, publish changes. And there is immediately this iNaturalist button. That's odd.
One image.
I thought there were multiple, right? Or is that again an error on my side?
Wait,
no.
Now you were on the category for not Anomala.
Oh, did I mess up again?
This is the category.
My bad. Oops.
May as well upload that one, though. Oh, unless you've linked it.
Did I link it correctly then?
Let's check.
Yeah, it's linked correct,
yes.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Well, you may as well upload it because there's one image and there's no images we've got.
Wait. Yes.
So this one is incorrect. No. So we need.
No. All fine.
We'll need the. No. Which one did we say? We need this one. So in Wikidata.
Getting lots of images.
It actually takes the underscore. And then comments, and then add, where were we? Comments, it is the category.
You'll have to, yeah. You have to take the pipe out. Isn't that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. That's fine.
Why is it showing? What did I do wrong?
Have you created it yet?
Didn't I?
I think I started off creating the wrong one and doing everything on that one.
Okay. So I need to copy this. Great.
Yeah, so obviously Wikidata is not going to be able to find the categories.
No.
It's a main creation.
Publish.
All right.
Nice.
Go back. Oh no, check again. Check if the iNaturalist, the GBIF is there, iNaturalist is there, and so we can go to back and then edit. And
See, obviously we do this at the moment. We're pulling in just images because they're the only ones. When I do this, and I've got a lot of images to choose from for put into the category, the new category. For example, I've got a species that's got 526 observations that doesn't have a common category at the moment, which I am going to do. I tend to go into the iNaturalist images and look at who is IDing the observations. Because I'm dealing in New Zealand moths and I know of a lot of the people who are experts in those areas, I then filter through the images I'm uploading to Commons via the people who've actually identified the observation, so that I get not only good quality images, I'm also really, really confident that it is what iNaturalist says it is. Obviously, in a situation like this where you've only got one that could possibly be the only one, it's been ID'd in iNaturalist and it's up to research grade. So it's about as good as you can get for citizen science kind of things. If you can't get images from museums, and then museums a lot of the time will just only have old dead species, and it's very helpful to have images that are of live animals out and about in their own natural habitat.
So, and we can actually, so again,
and I'm also interested to see, Andra, that you cite iNaturalist and you also cite GBIF in
yes.
your, yeah.
And I try to use both as secondary references.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
So, I mean, if there is nothing, yeah, but I prefer to have it's more like a confirmation reference than a primary reference.
Yeah, I do the same. I use the one I tend to use for New Zealand is the New Zealand Organisms Register, which is actually most of the time quite out of date. But for moths, someone's obviously been doing work, and it's actually okay. So I'll use that as a reference, along with the New Zealand threat classification, species threat classification website as well. But I'm doing it to indicate. I'm using them to indicate to people who are reading the Wikipedia article that this is the up-to-date name of the taxon, because a lot of the time, as I said, for some of the New Zealand endemic moths that I'm dealing with, GBIF won't necessarily even have it in there. And it's possible other sources of information that a lot of Wikipedians rely on might not be up-to-date taxonomically. God, tongue twister.
So there isn't a strange thing here, because when it says that it was described in 1932,
yeah,
but the reference that comes back from BHL is 1930.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a no-go.
That's a no-go until you check it. Again, check GBIF, because GBIF's got this lovely thing now where it is actually linking to the original description of the species. So that's where I go to try and find the first. Well, if I don't already know by just looking, that's where I go to find the first description. Is to just check GBIF and then go put that in as the first reference.
This is a nice one. The species box doesn't render.
Oh, okay.
So let's first quickly do publish page. So we have this. Then I'm quickly checking Checking GBIF. Just for the reference, as you've just explained, so do no, I will do. So I first need to see who was the author. So this Janssen in 1932, so published in Janssen AJT. So, the global public. Not of. Ah, it says a DOI. Can that be true, or is it a reference?
It's 2 pages in something else.
Ah. So this doesn't point to. Well, it does.
So it looks like in this Berlin thing from 34, they published this again.
Okay. So would this be in BHL? No publication. So should I just then cite this without a link? So we can start by doing this. And
they have an article in English Wikipedia as well.
Yeah.
Who has an article in English Wikipedia?
The person describing it. It had the full name in the chat.
Ah.
But that's the Swedish spelling, so it's not exactly like the English article. I just realized. But you might find it anyway, perhaps.
Ah, okay. Theodoris Janse. So it is.
Yes, there you got it.
So we had that was in 1932.
Yeah.
Search, yes. Then cite and use this one.
Yeah, use Java.
And then.
And it's also possible that more modern publications will also say that. But yeah, this is where copyright can be a right pain, because you can't, how likely is it for me to be able to get that particular 1932 book? It's not easy if it's not in DHL.
Okay, and I will do the categories later, but first the species box is not rendering. So we need to fix that. And this was always a pretty straightforward process. Click here to reset. And so we need to say rank is this? No, it is the genus. Am I right?
What are we? Can you just scroll to the top? I can't.
I'm going back. So I went to. So we have the species, which is
this thing is the genus. Yeah.
So this is the genus.
Yeah.
Oops, no. So we need to fix it. So we say the rank is no, genus.
Yeah.
And the parent is, where are we?
Ranidae.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
So if I understand correctly, now the box for the species doesn't work because the genus did not yet have a box. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
And sometimes you have to do even beyond that.
Yeah.
So let's see if that's the case. It seems like it works now. So we publish page. Okay, and we can go back to the other. And now we have.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Nice. Okay. And then the remaining things I will do afterwards. So let's check again. I mean, it should work with it now. List of moths. You immediately see it appears in many lists of Mozambique. List of South Africa. Ganesh moth. And then let's see. Wait, I need to check. So let's. And it's blue again.
Yay! Nice.
Yay!
And it's a good photo too.
Okay, yeah, and then so I continue then going into the literature and try to, or if you go to an iNaturalist page, we didn't cover that, but let's see if we can find one. Let's see if I'm just picking a random one, going to iNaturalist. Checking here. So as you can see, what iNaturalist does is if you go to a species page and go to the About page, when a Wikipedia article doesn't exist, it gives you a little template you can use as a stop. So as a next step, I sometimes copy this from here, go to the article and copy this to edit source, edit, and then try to, since this will show like this, I will then try to find stuff by going through either BHL or any of the sources and try to populate it accordingly. But
can we have a look at the Wikidata item for that image? For that species?
Sure. I think that is also a nice bridge to your document.
There's a lot of things to do on that one.
Okay, Wikidata item. You added the image already.
Yes. I had to add it there so it popped up automatically in my taxon box on Swedish Wikipedia.
So yesterday, Paul tweeted out that he'd created an item for a species, and there was a discussion on Twitter as to what other data could be added to his Wikidata item. And it got me thinking as to how I use Wikidata for moths. And I created a document in Google basically explaining, to the nth degree, absolutely and totally, all the things that I possibly could do to a species item. And the link's in the chat if someone wants to share it.
Do you want me to share that?
Sure, yes, that'd be great.
With everyone? All right, I'll do that.
So, I basically went through and thought, okay, what do I do? What actually do I do when I go into Wikidata? And it's obviously, some of this depends on what the item is actually saying, whether it's a synonym or not. If it's not a synonym, obviously you don't include that. Images, I have yet to come across a species where I can give an image of the female, male, pupa, larvae, and egg image. Never done it. Never found all those images. That's not to say I wouldn't love to. It's just the problem with a lot of New Zealand endemic species is their life history is unknown, and a lot of their, sometimes you don't even have one of the adult sexes photo of that, let alone, the egg image. So I went through, and there's other bits and pieces in this sort of structure that I normally don't get a chance to add, but thought I'd put it in there anyway. So for me, obviously endemic 2, the property P183, is very important because I'm dealing with endemic species in New Zealand. But perhaps in Europe, it may not be quite so important if it's, species are all through Europe, for example. I really enjoy the host species, what the host of the species is, basically because I think I try and think about how people might use that data. And when I did my garden recently, about 2 or 3 years ago, I was actually trying to put in the garden plants that would attract insects so that it would actually increase my skink population, but also because I really enjoy looking at insects. So I always think if there's hosts there and all the endemic species in New Zealand, I can then find out what I should be planting in my garden to encourage these particular species to come and visit. Mm-hmm. So for me, when you're putting data in Wikidata, it's not, especially about a species, although I do emphasize the taxonomy and also the literature and the referencing, for example, I also try and think of other reasons the data might be used. So, as I said, host species. The other thing, named after, although there's a bit of a debate amongst editors as to where that particular data should go, whether it should be just a statement named after, or whether it should be placed as a qualifier under the species name. I actually think it's quite important data because someone from a historical point of view or digital humanities might be interested in researching that side of science. So who and why do people name species? Who are they named after? Why were they named after them? That sort of thing. So for me, although there is an argument to be said for making sure that Wikidata is as comprehensive as possible as far as taxonomy and first descriptions, I'm of the opinion that a whole load of raw data should be added to these types of items.
Yeah, it's also a great help. It also serves another purpose. So what I did is I took this document that you shared with us yesterday, and I wrote where is it? It actually got a very nice number in the moth schema in Wikidata, because I transformed that into an entity schema, which is P321.
Nice.
So we can now use this. And actually what I did is I took your document and I just copy pasted it in as the language in the entity schema. So you can see for a moth species, there is a P31, which is an instance of a taxon. It's an instance, but it's also an instance of a synonym. And then you have the images. So I made pointers here. And the reason I made those pointers is so that you can get blobs, that you can be very specific for what the pattern is that you're expecting. So if it's just an instance of a taxon, all you need to add is that it's an instance of taxon. However, if you want to use it as an instance of synonym, you also expect these qualifiers. And then you can even go further, saying it is, and I forgot what I should have put on this in. You can you can traverse the path in Wikidata to go there. And so why this can be helpful, although we still need to discuss the cardinality of things, because, for example, in this case, so I have said in the current schema, we say that it's instance of taxon and it's an instance of a synonym. So for every moth it now expects, that's a synonym. So what I need to do is an additional edit, and I need to argue, I already did, that the synonym is optional, which is the plus. For the images, when you write it as a line like this, it expects exactly one image. Whereas it can be 0 and 0, which is an asterisk. There can be 0 or more images. So this is so when you have done this nitpicking of that schema that you nicely wrote in the Google Doc, you can do checks, which is something like check entities against this schema, and then I cannot demonstrate beyond here because we don't have a set of items yet. But if we then would have add a Sparkle query that would give us a list of moths, and I would say run query, and we would validate, it will give you which of the moths fits that schema.
Right.
So
do you want to do a short version, like just limited?
Sure.
So paste in the chat here something. You can just copy and paste. So that will give us everything in the genus we just worked on.
Yes.
So they're all moths, but just a few, probably 10 or something.
Let me just check before. So you have indeed an item label. Also probably there is no. Well, this we don't need. So indeed,
no, you can remove that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can do that. So yes, this is a nice one. So I fetch, and I will do limit 10.
Mm-hmm.
So what it will do, so it selected 10 items that are indeed a moth, and you can verify this is the Himala, and now we can validate. And I would be surprised if there is any green ones. So what it tells us is that none of these moths actually fit the description, which makes sense because we still have to go through the cardinality. Because basically it says named after. Not all will have named after. So we can actually say the named after is also optional.
Mm-hmm.
And habitat.
Yeah, habitat. I've never done habitat before. I had never thought of habitat until yesterday because of Paul's tweet.
We want a commons category, right? Well, yeah. This was kind of a question.
It's not necessary. I mean, ideally we'd like it, but.
Yeah, but that's the one thing that I would like to emphasize. The entity schema is not a police, so we can actually make multiple entity schema given a use case. So if we do care about, and let's say for the sake of argument, we do care now that every moth should have a commons category, we put in this line. And if some other wiki user comes in and says, no, I don't care for commons, that user can make a limited version of this and remove that. So it's not like the constraint violation. It should be like this. It's more like being able to filter your own results according to your preference and use case. But
that opens up an interesting question, which I don't think I have heard anyone talk about. Is there notability for schemas? Or can you make how many you want? Like, I don't think we have discussed this.
No.
Like you made one now, we're at 321, so only 300 have been made. So obviously this has not been abused yet. But someone starts a bot and create 1 million of them.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I would say, actually, that's a very good question. I would say we need to have that discussion in Wikidata. So what can a schema be notable? If you take out the Wikidata out of the equation and you would run it in a Wikibase, I would say, for example, you would say just go ahead and. But it's indeed a very interesting discussion because we have recently done a paper on, and this was on the human coronaviruses, where we actually, that's what we did. So there are more entity schemas. So you have a disease, you have a virus strains, but there is a huge overlap in the, and what we argued in this paper is what I just said. For some use cases, items are the same. So if you have boats, you can do a entity schema on a boat. But if you want to have an entity schema of a ferry, it will have a lot of the same properties as boat, but more.
Yeah.
And I think this is a discussion we still indeed need to have: is how do you deal with notability? How do you deal with specificity? And again, it's not like the constraint violations. It's an instrument to see if your if the data fits your narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Invasive too, you don't normally have. I just put that in just in case, because I'm thinking of New Zealand where we've got some moths that have come in and are invasive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So that should be optional.
There's
quite a few in there that should be optional because I was trying to be as extensive as possible, thinking of all the things that someone might want to put in an item, rather than thinking of it or they might want to do a query on, rather than thinking of it as more of a structured. This is the every item should have this.
But again, that is up to the use case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one use case would be to have a lot of them being optional, and then you're mostly checking that nothing else was added because we already made an exhaustive list. These are all the things that we think could be there.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
And the other thing is where I'm a picker, which is the main case for my utilization of entity schemas, is I think that every statement in Wikidata should have this one. It should have the reference.
Yeah.
So I have a set of entity schemas that I check Wikidata items, and that if the statement doesn't have a reference, I deem it garbage.
Yeah. That's a problem for species items, though, because a lot of them are in reference. A lot of them just have bare statements that don't have a reference. And to have an instance of synonyms without a reference, I regard that as even worse. Like, that's really bad.
We've submitted a proposal for the biohackathon, which is going to happen in November, to use these entity schemas to create subsets out of Wikidata. So, and we have done this in past hackathons as well. So what you do is you write this entity schema and you run it against the full daily dump of Wikidata. And what comes out is only those statements that fit this entity schema. So if you would run that, this schema against it, I expect that we have a very small subset of Wikidata. Whereas if you would say, let's remove all, we can actually do it pretty. Let's try that. So we just go, not even putting make them optional, because if it's optional, it calculates it as well. So it can have performance issues. But now I have commented it out. So I do expect that all those moths will, you see?
Yep.
So we can now say, what do we expect? Do we want to know if there are synonyms? So if I know, this will work because the optional is there. Let's see which one has an image. That will work as well, because we do it into plus. Let's see.
Okay, so about half of them does.
Yeah. So validate. Yeah. So half have an image.
You can add taxon rank, I guess.
Taxon rank, and then I expect taxon name. And validate. Uh-oh.
Not taxon name.
Okay. Yeah, but that could also be because they don't fit. Let's see what the error message is. It's me. It's me. Sorry. So image. Is there another reference? Parent taxon. Okay, validate. Still, it says it could not find the. There is a problem with the date. Where do we have a date? I think this is an error. What is a property P574?
Those might be the qualifiers that you use for after you've got
year
the
of taxon publication.
Yeah, and sometimes that information's not there.
Yep. So I will make that optional. And then I do expect, no.
Well, the author might not be there either. That's the thing. So if you make the author, the taxon author and taxon,
okay. Yep.
There you go.
And obviously, to me, that's just the most basic information that should be in Wikidata. It's the taxon author and the year of first description. But it's not often.
No. So with these entity schemas and by pruning and fiddling with the code, you can actually identify which items you need to
work on.
And in the beginning, it feels like going into a rabbit hole, but it's funny to see that once you do that, over time it improves.
Yeah. I might be. I've never done anything with this, and I'm seriously considering using it because it's just one more way of throwing up items that sort of have alarm bells and need work.
Yeah, just ping us, because the downside of entity schemas is that it's yet another one of these formats that you have to learn. There there is Wiki Shape, which is a project, which is a website that tries to make it more. So, for example, you can extract. So what you can do, which is different than having to write it like this, which it's similar to Sparkle, but it's just a bit different. And another way is that you can actually go to a Wikidata item, completely make it as you prefer it to be, and then use something like extract. So if you say extract schema, what it does, well, let's say, which one did we just do? So let's assume that we have, where is this AP Plema? Let's take this item. Let's assume that we have populated this Wikidata item as the golden standard. I can go to Wikishape. I can actually say, I can get the item, extract schema. You have to believe me that what comes out is the entity schema for that. And you can take that to, if you are...
Will the simple one work?
Let's check. Let's see. That's a good comparison. So yes, so you see it just created the entity schema as it is, and then you can start pruning from this way. So like what I did today is I took Siobhan's Google Doc and I wrote the full entity schema starting from scratch. But what I also sometimes do is I create 1 to 10 items, which I completely fulfill as I think that the schema should be, and then I get the entity schema and write it and then start pruning. So, for example, I can say I don't care for this. Here it says, because it took in there 21. So I can say no, I don't want that. I don't want the schema name or the schema description. And then so I can prune it and select the items that I want. And then one more thing is, if you go to Jashe, which is this is a entity schema editor, and there are quite some Wikidata examples. And, for those of you who are familiar writing Sparkle queries, it's the same editor. So the auto-completion that comes from the Wikidata query surface works here as well as the autocomplete. So that's the second step. It's trying to align with the Wikidata query surface, which allows you to. But Siobhan, I'm happy to help you if you would like to learn and get.
Always something more to learn. Always.
Exactly. Okay. Should we call it a day?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I think so.
It's
a little bit like a night fly here.
Okay.
Happy Moth Week.
Happy Moth Week. Yes, still have more moths to take and Wikipedia articles to write. So thank you for watching and hope to see you next time.
See you next time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.